Mr. Speaker, education remains the surest path to victory over ignorance, poverty, and inequality. This is self-evident in the bold initiatives we continue to take to improve access, affordability, quality, and relevance at all levels. My resolve to expand access, improve quality, and to ensure affordability was accentuated when we analyzed the results of the West African Secondary School Certificate exam over the years.
The Ministry of Education has overall responsibility for the education sector, policy, planning, and monitoring.
The ministry has a vision, and that vision is to prepare all Ghanaians by providing them with the requisite education, the requisite skills, so they can participate in the socio-economic development of the country.
And in doing so, the ministry formulates and implements policies using agencies that operate under its ambit.
We've been able to distribute about 12.5 million textbooks to basic schools. And this is a big achievement. And this has improved pupil textbook ratio.
Education delivery and implementation is devolved to institutions, districts, and regions through the various agencies of the Ministry of Education.
You have very extraordinary councils who are running our universities, our polytechnics, our colleges of education with very competent vice chancellors, principals, and rectors. You have the National Council for Tertiary Education, well established, the National Accreditation Board, fantastic gatekeepers. So when we are in the ministry, we are really rest assured.
Some of the core functions of the Ghana Education Service are: 1, to implement government policies on education; 2, to ensure that all children of school-going age have access to education; 3, to ensure quality education service delivery to all and sundry.
The National Accreditation Board is charged with the responsibility to formulate and administer schemes of assessment, certification, and standards.
And its main mandate is to accredit both public and private tertiary education institutions with regard to the contents and standards of their programs.
The National Accreditation Board is to provide the best basis for establishing, measuring, and improving standards,
especially those who are to teach in these institutions, to make sure that they measure up. If you don't conform to those standards, accreditation is not given.
The National Council for Tertiary Education oversees the proper administration of institutions designated as institutions of tertiary education in Ghana.
And it does so through advice to the minister on matters relating to policy and management, advising on the funding mechanisms, funding options, and budget allocations to tertiary institutions in accordance with agreed policy directives. We want to envisage tertiary education at a stage where the quality, access, relevance, all these things are tailor-measured to suit not just our national needs, but produce graduates that are competitive globally, but locally relevant.
The Council has established several links with institutions in Ghana and elsewhere.
So you need to benchmark what you are doing against the international standards. That is one reason why these collaborations are important.
The Non-Formal Education Division is responsible for coordinating literacy activities in Ghana and implementing the National Functional Literacy Program.
We are charged with the responsibility of ensuring that there is adequate and sustainable national capacity for the provision of non-formal education and functional literacy in the country.
Literacy is a must for nations aspiring to achieve growth and development.
If you look at the national statistics on literacy, you realize that it has appreciated. As at the time of the commencement of our intervention, the literacy rate was hovering around 30%. Today we are talking about a figure within the range of 70%.
And equipping them with developmental information and functional skills in the domains of life and occupational skills, civic awareness, and health. The division has a very good story to tell.
Lives have improved, occupational activities have increased. People are able to record their daily business transactions and track their performance as a result of the lessons that we have provided in the primer. At the Sunyani prisons, we had a literacy class there, and the inmates who participated in the literacy class registered for the BEC examinations, and they made straight A's.
The National Board for Professional and Technician Examinations is charged with the responsibility to formulate and administer schemes of examinations, assessment, certification, and standards.
Basically, we work with the 10 polytechnics in this country. When the first set of curricula came out, we realized that they were supply-driven. So as a result of that, series of projects were put in place.
At the heart of this initiative lies the conviction that non-university tertiary institutions can provide appropriate and effective solutions to the unique manpower development challenges that Ghana faces.
The quality of the students, because the students followed a routine based on industrial attachment program that we developed. So it made it possible for the students to actually get jobs after the training.
The Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences is an arts and science institution of Ghana. It was founded in November 1959 by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Osagyefo's main aim was nothing but to encourage the creation, acquisition, dissemination of knowledge for national development.
The Academy is successfully performing its mandated role it was set up to achieve.
We've realized that development trend in this world is changing, and science and technology is gradually capturing the system. But quite unfortunately, our children down there seem not to know the benefit of science and technology, from the basic schools to the second cycle schools. So the Academy has taken the trouble upon itself to conduct what we called, or undertake what we call the outreach programs, science outreach programs. So we bring the schools together and we impress upon them the need for them to take science and technology serious in the education they need.
The Ghana Institute of Languages is a tertiary institution that was established in 1961 with the aim of helping promote African unity through the teaching of non-Ghanaian languages.
The languages they gave us to teach were the international languages. So the institute has been teaching English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, German, Russian. The important thing to note here is that the mandate is not a static mandate. There are two main fields, I would say, that we do, or formats of our production. One is the training of language specialists, which is we train people who become translators and interpreters in conferences, in companies, and so on. We also train people in bilingual secretaryship.
The Institute has successfully introduced the Chinese language for obvious reasons.
China is now the #1 trading nation in the world. You can't ignore that fact.
Graduates from the Institute are seen in very prominent and respected positions the world over.
You go around the world today, and I mean the world, not just Africa, you will see products of this institute handling language situations like in big international conferences, United Nations, AU, African Union, ECOWAS, everywhere.
The Ghana Book Development Council is mandated to coordinate activities of all groups and individuals in the book industry to ensure an effective book development system.
And it's also to stimulate publication and use of books in the country. GBDC is also to encourage indigenous authorship, printing and publication of books, and the translations that go with it.
The Council seeks to nurture and develop an indigenous and vibrant book industry of a functionally literate society.
GBDC supports quality education through the use of books. And one of the issues we've had to deal with over the years has been the quality of some of the books on the market. We've had a lot of complaints about the quality of certain books. And we realized that probably the situation is as it is because there are no set of approved standards for books. So publishers and printers decide on their own standards, particularly for reading materials. When it comes to textbooks, the Ministry of Education has standards. But when it comes to reading materials, then the publishers and the writers adopt their own standards. And so one of the things that GBDC has started doing is to generate a set of standards every book published in Ghana must conform to. That would be the minimum.
Among its projects, the Council is promoting reading through the formation of reading clubs at the basic level.
We also from time to time hold book fairs. We can't talk of promoting reading when people don't have access to books. And we focus on mainly the rural areas because that is where we realize that you don't have a lot of book stores. So we go there with the publishers, with the booksellers, and we introduce them to books, of course at reduced prices, just to encourage people to buy books.
SENDLOS is a new agency created under the Ministry of Education by a cabinet memorandum.
We are charged to harmonize and regulate distance learning in Ghana. We package education and training for delivery through open and distance learning mode. We support, coordinate, and offer advice on distance learning activities in partnership with the public and the private sectors. For now, we're focusing on secondary education. And what our aim is to share with all schools a common quality material.
The creation of SENDLOS will prevent the insurgence of degree mills and develop a sound ODL community.
If I look at the tertiary level, we work in partnership with the Center for the National Council for Tertiary Education to develop policy, to support open and distance learning, to support open educational resources, to support ICT in education.
The vision of SENDLOS is to make learning accessible, flexible, and affordable to all citizens.
We have at least 526 public senior high schools that have our materials in electronic mode. We have gone further to package these lessons for use in the prisons. And I must say that we have had 4 years of successful performance, that is, of learners in the prisons writing the BEC and the WASI and passing.
The West African Examinations Council, WAEC, is a West African examining body. The council seeks to provide qualitative and reliable educational assessment, encourage academic and moral excellence, and promote sustainable human resource development and international cooperation.
We must say with our heads up and with a great pride that since 2008, Ghanaian students have been sweeping the Excellence Award that is given to candidates who sit for the WAS, at the international level. From 2011, Ghana took the first and the second, and then somebody else took the third from Nigeria. But since then, Ghana has always been taking first, second, third, you know, and I think that it is an achievement that we should celebrate, and it also tells the quality of education that we have in this country. We may have our problems though, but you know, this is a clear indication that something is being done right somewhere.
Years ago, I felt that Africa needs to buttress her unimpeachable claim to political independence with parallel efforts to expose to the world the basis of her rich culture and civilization through the medium of a scholarly encyclopedia. The two visionaries, the late Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, conceived an idea that would correct the negative and inaccurate accounting of African history through the Encyclopedia Africana.
The establishment of the Encyclopedia Africana project was occasioned by the customary historical view of Africa, with its emphasis on European presence that left in its trail misrepresentation, misinterpretation, distortions, misconceptions about authentic knowledge of Africa. Pan-African writers and several Pan-African bodies in their own right are contributing their quota in reconstructing the African story. However, the Encyclopedia Africana project remains the biggest platform. Indeed, it is the most united collective front within which all these bodies that I have mentioned will find space and accommodation to collectively push forward the agenda of rebranding Africa, repositioning Africa.
Racial exploitation and imperialist domination deliberately fostered a new and monstrous mythology of race, which nourished the popular but unfounded image of Africa as the Dark Continent. The immediate goals of the Encyclopedia Africana project are:
systematically document the authentic history, the culture, the contributions in an organized form through the medium of scholarly encyclopedia as a natural heritage for Africa and the rest of the world.
Following the conclusion of the UNESCO Field Offices reform in 2014, UNESCO Accra has transformed itself into a national office, focusing its activities on Ghana alone.
National commissions are more or less, they exist to mobilize the educational, scientific, and cultural communities in the member states, to interface with the program and activities of the organization in member states. So the commission see to the preparation of briefs, for the Ghana delegation.
The activities of the UNESCO Accra National Office fall within the programmatic framework of UNESCO, covering all domains of UNESCO's mandate.
Recently, in October, at the UNESCO General Conference in Paris, the Framework of Action for Education 2030 was adopted.
The Commission is making significant impact in the education sector in Ghana.
Improving access, to education, we have chalked a lot of successes. The EFA Global Monitoring Report of UNESCO highlighted Ghana as having made significant progress at all levels of education. Indeed, at the level of early childhood care and education, Ghana stood tall in sub-Saharan Africa.
The Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training was established to coordinate and oversee all aspects of technical and vocational education and training in the country.
The potential it has to stimulate industrial development and economic growth. I think this is what led to the nation's recognition to this fact, and it has been one of we trying to situate this within the context of our economic development as a nation. And this led to the birth of COTVET in the year 2006.
The major objective of COTVET is to formulate policies for skills development across the broad spectrum of pre-tertiary, tertiary education, formal, informal, and non-formal sectors.
And we do this by coordinating all technical and vocational education and training activities and skills development across close to 13 different ministries, departments, and agencies that have pockets of TVET programs.
COTVET is establishing Ghana's technical vocational education and training system to improve the productivity and competitiveness of the skilled workforce and raise the income-generating capacities of people.
We've come out with a concept which we have christened as competency-based training, CBT, as the new mode through which teaching and learning in the TVET area must take place. And the competency-based training approach emphasizes more of practicals rather than theoretical way of teaching.
COTVET has made some major achievements since its inception.
The oil and gas capacity building project that is being implemented under the auspices of the Ministry of Energy, COTVET is coordinating a critical component of that program. And the part that we are actually coordinating deals with development of innovative curricula. We think that there are some skills that are of critical importance. That is welding and fabrication, for instance. And the kind of welding that is required on the oil rigs and the rest are different from what you see on the wayside.
The Funds and Procurement Management Unit is a multi-donor projects implementation unit that was created to overcome the multiplicity and duplication of functions of project implementation units.
Our vision goes with the broad vision of Ministry of Education to make education accessible to almost all, and also improve upon the quality of education in the country.
The FPMU is responsible for the coordination and management, disbursement and procurement of donor, bilateral, multilateral funded projects, as well as projects funded through the Government of Ghana.
We implemented a project that is the second phase of African Development Fund project, which consisted of upgrading of some selected secondary schools. In these schools, we put up administration blocks, dormitories, science blocks, classroom blocks, and workshops. In all these facilities, we furnished them. So if you are talking about the quality, if you furnish actually a science block and the libraries, you actually improve upon quality. We constructed 15 district education offices, 50